In my last video, we talked about the difference between playing a role and having an identity. So today, I want to take that just one step further. Many people hear these concepts and think, okay, isn't that just codependency? The answer really is no. Although identity diffusion and codependency often show up together, they are actually two different psychological concepts. Understanding that difference can completely change how you approach your healing process. Because if you only focus on changing your behaviors without understanding your identity, you can end up feeling stuck even when you're doing everything right. So let's talk a little bit about why this might happen. At their core, these two struggles ask very different questions. Identity diffusion asks, do I actually know who I am? On the other hand, codependency asks, how do I function in my relationships? When someone struggles with identity diffusion, the struggle is internal. They ask questions like, who am I? And what do I actually enjoy when I'm alone? What are my values? What are my opinions? What kind of life do I really want to build for myself? Codependency, on the other hand, is primarily about relationship patterns that have formed over a long period of time. It often shows up as chronic people-pleasing, difficulty setting boundaries, fear of abandonment, rejection, a lot of over-functioning, emotional caretaking, and feeling responsible for everyone else's emotions. Those are relationship behaviors. Identity diffusion is about your relationship with yourself. So, why does this distinction matter so much? Because if you believe your only problem is codependency, your healing will naturally focus on changing your behaviors. You'll practice saying no. You'll work on setting boundaries. You'll stop trying to fix everyone else's problems. Now, those are all incredibly important skills, no doubt. But what if your entire identity has become organized around taking care of other people? Then those changes don't just feel uncomfortable. Many times they feel terrifying. Why? Because you're not simply changing a habit. To your brain, it feels like you're losing the very person you've always believed yourself to be. And honestly, that's a much deeper psychological process than simply learning how to say no. So let me hit the pause button here. Let me show you what I mean a little bit about that. All right, so imagine two people. Both struggle to say no. So maybe from the outside, they look almost identical. But underneath, they're struggling for completely different reasons. Person A has a strong sense of who they are. They know their values. They know what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, what brings them happiness. They have a stable sense of identity. Their challenge isn't identity in this situation. Their challenge is disappointing people. They avoid conflict, feel guilty setting boundaries, and worry about letting others down. That's primarily a codependency issue. Now, imagine person B. When I ask, who are you outside of taking care of everyone else? They honestly don't know. They might look at me, staring at me. When I ask, well, what do you enjoy just because you enjoy it? What brings you happiness? Maybe they pause. Not because they don't want to answer, that's not it, but because they've spent decades automatically asking a different question. What does everyone else need from me? Their life has become organized around meeting other people's needs. Their difficulty saying no isn't simply a boundary problem. It's rooted in not really having a well-developed sense of self outside of the caretaker role. So, while both people struggle with the exact same behavior, saying no, the underlying problem is completely different. Person A is working on changing relationship patterns, behaviors. Person B is rebuilding an identity. That's why their healing paths also often look different. Healing identity diffusion isn't about reinventing yourself overnight. No way for that. However, it is about becoming curious about yourself again. It's about asking questions you may never have been given permission to ask as a child. Questions like, what do I actually enjoy? What do I like doing? What matters to me? Who am I when nobody else needs anything from me? What brings me happiness or joy? These questions might also feel uncomfortable at first, and they often do, but they're also where real healing begins. If you've spent years defining your worth by being the helper, the caretaker, or the responsible one, this is something important to remember. Those were roles you learned to survive, and they are not your identity. Healing isn't just about changing how you relate to other people. It's also about discovering who you really are. Because when you finally know who you really are, setting healthy boundaries becomes much easier. You no longer need other people's approval to tell you about your worth. The problem isn't simply that you spent your life putting everyone else first. The deeper issue may be that you never really had the opportunity to discover who you were outside of everyone else. In our next video, I'm going to walk you through some 5 signs that you might be struggling with identity diffusion. And as always, if this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I always like to hear from people and their own experiences. And if you're interested in learning more about codependency, family of origin, family healing, and building a healthier relationship with yourself, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.